Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. Today I have Andrew Yaros with me, and he is the creator of an exciting new simulation of the Apple Lisa, and it's called the Lisa GUI. And so thanks for joining me, Andrew. It's
Good to be here.
really nice to connect with you, and I was really excited to see this, and a lot of other people are excited to see it. And and you've gotten quite a bit. So I saw it on somewhere, but it's on Boing Boing and what's some other places? You got a lot of coverage. Yeah,
Yeah, I was surprised. I got it on 9 to 5 Mac. I got
yeah.
on Action Retro was kind enough to do a little demo on his YouTube channel, along with some other stuff he was doing in a video. And Stephen Hackett posted on 512 Pixels about it.
Mentioned it. Yep.
Um,
Hackaday. Now
Hackaday did
person.
it. Um, I'm surprised because I just posted on Hacker News. I was planning on posting there. I know it's a website that gets a lot of attention, and I wanted to show my work to the world, and I guess a lot of people look at that.
Yeah. So real cool. And I have some questions for you, some official questions. So we'll start there. So maybe start with whatever you're comfortable just telling us about yourself, where you're from, what you do for a living.
Yeah, I'm Andrew Yaros. I'm from Philadelphia. um, I'm a software developer, web developer. I graduated from Drexel University.
Right.
um,
I've never read that.
yeah, yeah. I really like to do. I have a big background in art and architectural design as well as programming. So I like anything that can merge together those fields.
Okay.
Anything that involves the intersection of design and programming and art.
And we can talk a little bit more about the actual environment you use or you used to create this. But is it related to your regular work job or that those programming tools or whatever? Or
Sort of. I just used WebStorm to write it, but that's just an IDE for JavaScript. But um, the whole program is just JavaScript, pretty
okay.
much. Yeah.
Okay. Which is it's been around a while now.
All JavaScript. Yeah.
Late
Look,
90s, right?
yeah, yeah. JavaScript is, that's a whole other topic in of itself.
Yeah,
But,
okay.
but I mean, they've added quite a lot to it since the 90s. And now you can pretty much do full object-oriented programming within there. LisaGUI it's not like a recreation of the sorry, it's not a an emulation of the Lisa. It's a recreation.
It's an
So
incredible simulation.
yeah, um, it's all just done with object-oriented programming in JavaScript. So,
Yeah, so talk about that. I mean, you just kind of explained it pretty
yeah,
much. So again, it's not an emulation, which it's a simulation. So
yeah,
for all practical purposes, it feels like you're running the Lisa OS, but you're really not behind the scenes. It's faking you out.
yeah. It's look, I had to do all the legwork to actually make all of that happen,
Hmm.
but I didn't. It's not running Apple's code. It's not,
Right,
you know, emulating the Lisa hardware. It seems to be
right.
a little bit of a misconception because I think people see it and they think it's an emulator, but
Hmm.
it's not an emulator. I was more inspired by like sites like Windows 93 and Windows 96 and other web desktop
Okay.
sites that pretend to be an operating system, but they're really not. They're just really nice JavaScript programs. Um,
And that's why you can't, since it's a simulation, you couldn't run the Lisa Office system on it. I mean, as far as Lisa Write and all that kind of stuff, because
no,
it's written in Lisa code for Lisa hardware and so on.
yeah, it's written in Pascal and 6800 assembly. So
So did your interest in creating the simulation of the Lisa, did it start with your interest in the Lisa first, or like the what you mentioned, the Windows 93, the other simulated operating web-based operating systems?
well, the
Or
reason
what's the genesis of this?
the genesis of this is I had some wallpapers, some icons, some other things I've made just for myself, and I was like, I want to put downloads page up on my website and share this stuff. And I was thinking of old websites like myoldmac.net, and websites like that where they websites I would see as a kid where it like they mimic the look of the Macintosh UI.
Right,
Um,
right, yeah.
and like that's been a thing that people have been playing around with for a while now,
Hmm.
in one form or another. But I was like, I want to make a website like that and feature my old Apple themed downloads on a website like that. I think that would be cool. Um, and I kind of kept pushing to see, how how far I could take it and how close I could get it to behave like the Macintosh's UI. And I started with the Macintosh, and there was a point where I said, this isn't that interesting anyway. It's been done before. What if I did the Lisa? I like the Lisa. I have a Lisa. What if I tried to do the Lisa's UI? And there are some differences with how the Lisa works, and I just thought it would be fun and cool, and would bring maybe a little of attention to the Lisa too.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
and this project kind of grew out of control, and I kind of went through a few iterations of prototypes of it, but it sort of turned into its own thing. It turned into far past what I ever thought it was going to be, into sort of a full blown web OS.
Yeah.
Um, and eventually, the funny thing is, I just eventually took like the first prototype I did, and I just made that the downloads page on my site. And then LisaGUI became its own little thing. So
And
that's the story.
you're calling it an alpha version.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
alpha because there's definitely a lot of features that it lacks. I mean, there's a lot of things that, on the technical side, I really have to clean up a number of systems in there.
Mhm.
Like I don't even have a way to like check the file system right now. Right now, it's like if there's an error, you're screwed because there's no disk checking or
Yeah.
anything like that. Disk checking. There's no
Yeah.
actual disks, but it is very diegetic. I can get into that a little bit, but there's it shows the database for file storage as a hard disk, and it shows non-persistent RAM disks are shown as floppies. So I've tried to like be very diegetic about how I present it, so you feel like you're
Yeah.
yeah you kind of
It's convincing.
yeah
It's a pretty convincing simulation.
even
You
the
get to, yeah, I mean, you feel like you're really using a Lisa. May not be
even
exact, and it's, but it's, yeah, it feels like it. That's what
yeah
matters, kind of.
I
Like,
think I've succeeded in that regard. But like even the screen that loads the script when you start up the website
mhm.
is meant to look like the hardware test screen
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
Lisa. So
yeah.
like I wanted to like to take all of the things about loading a website and present them in a sort of analogous way as if you
Right.
were using a Lisa. Yeah.
Because, so I've owned a few Lisas in my time, and of course, my my story is my very first Mac was a Lisa that ran MacWorks Plus on it, and so when I turned it on every time, I was used to seeing that every time, the little long rectangle, and it would check. Let's see if I get it right. The memory, I/O board, CPU, I think first,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I don't remember the fourth one. It's like four
Oh
things it
gosh. Yeah. There are
checks.
four things,
The
and
post test.
there are four things. I forget what they are off the top of my head,
And
but
Action Retro just released a video, I think a week ago or whatever, and he's messing around with his Lisa, and it's booting MacWorks Plus too, just like what I had.
yeah.
So then it comes up with the little Sunry marketing box, like
Yep.
lower, middle, third, and then booting the Mac. That's what I saw for, yeah, that was my main Mac for a good year and a half or more
Yeah.
when I first got into it. I asked you before we got on the call
Oh
that
yeah.
I remember seeing a picture that you own a Lisa and you have a Mac Plus and then an iMac G4. So I know I was like, but I was looking, I couldn't find that picture. So you're a big Mac person.
Yeah, I've been a big Mac person for a while. I've switched like back and forth over the course of my life between these platforms, and
Mhm.
like at this point, the answer to the flame war question of which one is better is just whichever suits your needs.
Yeah.
But I have I have a few other vintage Macs right now. I have like a PowerBook 2400C. It's showing signs of vinegar syndrome on the screen. Sadly, I'm
Uh,
gonna have to figure that out. I've got an old iBook right now. It's a good little OS 9 machine. I've always kind of, for a long time, I've been really into like vintage Macs. I guess I find them very charming. I find the UI to be very charming.
Yeah. Well, they have a lot of
Um,
personality,
yeah,
arguably. And but you had an interest in the Lisa before you started doing this project.
yeah.
So what got you into that? Yeah.
Well, like it's a long story, but I ended
Talk
up with
and
a
talk about when you got your actual Lisa and so on.
yeah.
But
In high school, I tried to start like a club for the idea would be like we'd collect old donations of old computers and refurbish them and donate them. That was my
yeah.
idea. And it's funny, I ended up joining a club just like that at Drexel. There's something called Drexel TechServe, where they basically do exactly that. I
Oh,
had tried doing that in high school, but I couldn't get a lot of interest in it at the time. But I did get a few donations of old hardware from people because I sadly don't have or wasn't able to do much with that, and a lot of that stuff I lost in a move. But one of the things I still have from that time is the Lisa that I got. Like out of nowhere, a friend of my mom was like, "Hey, I have this old computer here. You can have it." It was a Lisa, like a Lisa
yeah,
210
right.
with no keyboard and like a I had a Mac Plus mouse for it, but it wasn't much I could do with it for quite a while. But
And
it
you finally got a keyboard. You found a keyboard for it?
so I finally got a keyboard like I don't know, like a year and a half ago or something. Um, finally got an actual Lisa keyboard for
Mm.
it. Um, it's funny I paid more for the keyboard than I paid for the computer. Um, but before that, a little while before that, I actually got one of those little adapters. Those little, I think Arcane Byte
Yeah,
makes them.
ADB. I think you can use an ADB keyboard,
I'm
right?
using,
Or
I have one for a Mac Plus keyboard. I felt like
okay,
that looked a little better next to it,
okay,
but
yeah.
I got one so I could use a Mac Plus keyboard with it. And then I finally got a real keyboard. They're hard to find. Lisa peripherals and Lisa
Oh yeah.
products in general are
And even
annoyingly
a lot of Lisa
expensive.
keyboards, they're disintegrating the foam, and a lot of old keyboards are. Yeah,
Yeah, I had to replace the little foam
yeah.
uh, keypads in there, and so I was popping them out, and they were like hitting my face and everything, and I had to put some glasses on because you have to like use like a tweezer or something and like really be careful and take them out of there. And that was quite an experience to do that. But
And just for anybody who's watching it doesn't know, the Lisa keyboard. So the Mac keyboard, early Mac keyboards, it looks like a phone jack. I guess it's the
it's
same
not
jack, but it's
exactly
not
the
the same
same
wiring.
port, and you should not use an actual phone jack port because that can fry the thing.
Okay, but it looks
Apparently,
like
that
it. It looks like a RJ45.
but
Is that what it is?
it
But
looks like one, but the
yeah.
wiring is different on the inside of
So the
that.
Lisa keyboard has looks like an audio, like an electric guitar plug, like
Yeah, it's like a
RCA, I
TRS
guess.
jack or
What is
whatever
it?
it's called. I think it's a TRS
Okay, but
connector.
it's along the just like
Yeah,
you plug into an amp or something with a guitar.
it just shows Apple loves playing lots of fun little games with proprietary connections and formats. And I mean, good luck finding another keyboard, that will work with it.
But your Lisa, but once you got the keyboard, it wored. Did you
Oh
have to do
yeah, it
anything else
works.
to it?
I mean, I've sort of had to go through, and even before I had the full keyboard, I went through. I had to clean out the motherboards, get all the gunk out of there. I got a X profile for it a
Okay,
few years ago. I started
mhm.
installing other OSs, doing things like that.
Neat.
Um, I regret not getting the 2 MB RAM board while I had the chance from Vintage Micros, but now I don't know where I'm going to get one.
So, in my opinion, and in my film, one of the main premises was how the Lisa was kind of the unofficial Mac prototype, which arguably I think it really was. It directly fed into, hardware, software, and people, engineering
Yes.
and stuff. And then, so, so the graphical user interface evolved into, more so with the Mac, and then Windows came along, and then, we'll jump through every change, but so the graphical user interface has evolved quite a bit. Here we are in 2025, the Mac OS very mature, Windows 11 very mature, Android and iOS. So what's your feelings about how it's changed and for the good and the bad?
I think there are. a number of things I look at with older UIs, and I
Yeah, there
guess
are other ones too, not to suggest
not
so
just the
Mac
Lisa,
and Windows, yeah, and
but
Lisa.
I think a lot of these older UIs were developed closer to that genesis of the desktop metaphor, and I think that was at the top of people's minds. They were thinking about the metaphor and
Hmm.
how does what I how are the actions that you take representative of a real world task?
Right.
And that's been abstracted away sort of slowly over the years. A lot of the things have sort of taken on a life of their own. A lot of the conventions are sort of taken for granted. So I mean, even things like there are things that are done to the UI now that I think are counterintuitive and that are a step backwards. Like people putting Apple's putting a lot of stuff in their title bars now. So where do I drag the title bar if the whole toolbar is moved into there? You know,
Yeah.
there's no window Chrome anymore. How do I drag a window? I have to move my cursor very close to the edge of a window and,
Hmm.
and and wait for the cursor to change, right?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
not and there's this sort of I think there's a sort of a step backwards in some ways. And also I think there's something very appealing about the constraints that you have with an older OS and on an older computer, because good design involves constraining yourself. And with an old computer, with a system like the Lisa, or the Mac, or even an old Windows system, you are constrained by default with a limited color palette or no color palette or a lower resolution. I mean, on the Lisa, by default, everything is color coordinated automatically because there is no color, right? Everything feels natural to that system. There's not. It's harder to screw it up when you're designing an app or something for an old Mac or an old Lisa. Now, I think there's a delicate balance to be struck with apps and app design, where you want something to feel like a Lisa app or like a Mac app or like a
Hmm.
Windows app, but you also want it to have its own character and personality, right? And I think it's very easy to it's harder now to create a Mac app, right? Like it's harder. Everything is Electron based. Everything is web based now.
Yeah.
So some of the design intent that you have put into a system like Mac OS now, all that effort that say Apple puts in, that's all lost because you're just doing everything through the web browser anyway. You're doing everything through an Electron app. Um, I think there's too many degrees of freedom, and I think we haven't quite figured out how to work with that in a way where the entire system sort of feels cohesive and together.
Would you call it, in the past this happened with more application, but feature bloat.
Yeah,
And maybe that's where we are now.
I
And
think
they're
we have UI
competing.
bloat a little bit these days.
Mhm.
And I think we have to think more about what we're doing and think about why we're doing what we're doing. Because I think some of the intent of things is lost over time. It's assumed that you know how to do things. And, the old Macs had really good tutorials that would walk you through every step.
Yeah.
Like if I would give that, I could give that to my mom or my grandmom, and they would know how to use a Mac if I did that. But now, like, it's assumed that you know how to do everything, and
Yeah. So I told you before we started too that I recently bought a new Mac. So
yeah,
I'm on my 2025, M4 MacBook Air, which I love a lot, 15-inch, right?
that
So I
sounds
bought
pretty
it
nice.
3 months ago or whatever. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Especially for the camera. It looks good.
Mm,
But I've been using a Mac continually since Mac it was called System 6.0.2,
right.
and then 7.5, 8, then Mac OS 10, everything. So, I've always been on a Mac. So right now, I'm using the most current Sequoia 15.5. I don't even know what the heck version. I had to bring it up and look at it because
Yeah.
I almost don't care anymore. I hate to say it. Love my Mac, but I mean, over the last 5 years, how many? updates that we had. And for me personally, what I do with it, it doesn't even make any difference. I guess is the point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
Is like, what are they changing exactly? I'm not using them, but
I mean,
I'm not so
yeah.
young anymore, so maybe I'm not on the cutting edge. But what I do with my computer, these upgrades and changes almost don't matter for me anyway. So what are they changing?
I mean, I think there's a point where, um, the computers is a very established tool now, and I
Yeah,
think we have to. I don't. I know Apple was. There seems like there was a point when they were trying to replace Macs with iPads and say, "Hey,
yeah,
Macs,
yeah.
don't worry about those things anymore. Buy an iPad now." And that
Right.
was like what 10 years ago when they were trying to really push for that, and they left the Mac line up to kind of rot a little bit.
Yeah,
Um, and I think Macs and desktop operating systems, I think they have a place. I think they serve a very specific purpose, and I think they
mhm,
need to stay. Steve Jobs used the metaphor that they're like trucks, and we're always going to have trucks, and we're always going to
right.
need them. I think I think Apple and Microsoft, I think they need to sort of stay the course and keep desktop operating systems functional and don't they don't have to change drastically every year. They don't
Right.
have to reinvent the wheel every year. They just have to keep them secure and working, I
So
think.
they do when you have people that stockholders and stuff, you got to
Yeah.
make profit, you got to keep changing. That's kind of one of the driving, not be too I'm not too cynical about it, but
No,
I
I mean, that's
part of it.
fair. That's fair. Yeah. I
And
just say that from my perspective as a
no, I agree with
developer.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to your point, I think one of the things that changed that direction with the iPad Pro and this is going to replace the computer at some point was Apple Silicon. Once the M1 and all that started coming out, that now they're really focused on that, how much more powerful the desktops are, laptops. Say this is for a general audience. Can you go so not so much the technical detail, but Lisa GUI is a simulation. But can you describe a little more detail about that? Uh,
So it's like what Lisa
how it
GUI,
works and
yeah, yeah. What Lisa GUI is a very big JavaScript program. It's pretty much one giant program, and it when you open a web when you open it in your browser, it
maybe
does a
kind of
bunch
like
of
a game. You might even consider it that way. You do things, it reacts.
yeah. Well, it's like you open it in your browser, it sets up this little windowed environment, and then um, you have different options that you can do. You have icons, you have programs that you can open, like desk accessories. Um, Trying to think of the best way of putting this for like a non-technical audience. It's like using a Windows computer or a Mac computer in your browser, but it's
Okay.
based on the Lisa.
Okay.
Oh, I should probably talk about the document-oriented workflow aspect of it because
Okay.
on the Lisa OS, you don't open a file. Sorry, you don't open a program and go into that program and go to File, New, and create a new document through there. You actually create a new file using what's called a stationary pad. So it's kind of like a template file where you have this stack of papers and you tear off a piece of paper and you start working on that
Right.
document. You start writing on it. That's the metaphor for that's what you would do in an office.
Hmm.
And so in Lisa GUI, you do that virtually, right? Um, you
And
can
then
actually
Lisa OS did this, that it was document centric versus everything
right
application.
versus application centric.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Um,
I'm gonna now work with numbers here and do like some calculations and stuff. So that's you have your paper, or now I'm gonna write a letter, and so now it brings the tools in for you to do those things.
the tools are sort of the idea is the tools are implicit. The tools are there in the background, and you don't work with them directly.
Hmm.
You open a document, and it opens with the right application
Yeah.
that document is created. That document is associated with, I guess you could say. Or I'm not always the best at discussing maybe describing some of these things, but I do my best.
Yeah, no, I thought it was very good because
Okay.
that's a because like you said, we're all app centric.
Yeah.
from our phones. And so now what? The iPhone and Android, 15 years now or
Well,
so?
they're even more app
And
centric,
then go
I'd
even further
say.
back on Windows and Mac. I mean, everything's app centric for
Yeah.
40 years. So, so
It,
this
it's hard.
document centric thing is like,
It's
what?
harder to wrap your head around, but
Yeah.
it's funny because I actually learned, and I was surprised by this, but because I had gone into the get info window in Mac OS many times,
Yeah.
but you can actually create station. You can actually make a file of stationary pad in Mac OS today. So if you go into get info, there's an
Really?
option for files that says stationary pad, and if you check that little box and you double click on the file, instead of opening it, it will make a copy and it will open the copy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it was staring me in the face for how long now? And I never even noticed that until someone pointed it out on the Hacker News thread I made. Um,
And, and we only have a few more minutes,
oh,
so
yeah,
we're
yeah.
going to wrap it up. I got two more questions to ask you, but just to make a quick comment. One of my favorite old programs, when I first got started in computer history and I started writing articles and stuff using an LC2, that was my Mac, but my software of choice was ClarisWorks.
Yeah.
And so ClarisWorks was kind of cool in the fact that you would start with a document, Word document, I mean a word processing document or a spreadsheet or whatever, but then you could like bring a text box into your spreadsheet or a spreadsheet into your text box. So it kind of
Yeah, kind of mixed
centralized.
and
You have a
matched them.
document, you can bring the other tools in, sorta, I think. But it was neat at the time, I thought. And then Microsoft tried to implement, was it called Open Doc or that was
That was
Apple.
Apple, Open
What was
Doc.
what was Microsoft? It was
I forget what Microsoft tried to do, but
similar
Apple tried to do Open
concept
Doc.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so what are your future plans for Lisa GUI now?
I would like
You're
to,
gonna still upgrade it and keep going?
yeah, I'd like to keep going with it. I'd like to get a paint program in there. I'm a big Mac
That
paint
would be good.
fan.
Yeah, that seems like it's a gotta have it.
Lisa Draw on Lisa is great, but I really would like to see like a version of Mac Paint with rectangular pixels. I just think that would be really weird and interesting. So
Yeah.
I'll try and recreate that and have fun with that. I'd also like to add sound at one point. There's some UI animations I really need to add into there, like windows collapsing and opening, and
Hmm.
even the little menu bar item flash when you click on a menu item and it flashes a few times. I got to add that in there. And the other thing I really want to add is localization, which will be tricky, but I need to get
Oh,
a
okay.
lot more font characters in there
Excuse me.
and maybe add some other languages and make it a little more accessible to other people because it's entirely JavaScript based. It doesn't even use normal HTML nodes or whatever. So you can't just automatically translate it. It doesn't really work like that. Like you
Yeah.
can't use Google Translate or use your browser's built-in translation feature because it doesn't account for JavaScript programs and it has no way of knowing you know which part of the program is the actual text that should be translated and which part is functional text. So
Right, right.
I mean, other programs, other little desk accessories. I'd like to add some games, solitaire even.
And so real because we're gonna actually get cut off in like a
Yeah, yeah,
half, but and I will put the links in the show notes, of course. And your webpage is really good. It has a very nice overview and explanation of these things.
yeah.
So yeah. Well, everyone, that's going to wrap up this interview session. There are links below in the show notes, so please go on over to lisagui.com and try out the simulator. A big thank you again to Andrew for joining me here. Please take a quick moment and give this a like. Plus, subscribe if you would like to catch more of these types of interviews in the future. Plus, all of the extended interviews from my documentary film, Before Macintosh, The Apple Lisa.